Rain fell in silvery sheets against the cracked windows of the small apartment, and the ceiling leaked just enough to form a slow, rhythmic drip into a bowl by the couch. The sound was the only thing breaking the silence. Maria sat at the edge of the couch, clutching her phone with both hands. Her thumb hovered over the screen, the message typed and ready to send. "I'm at 47 Elm Street. Please come quickly. I can't stay here much longer." She hesitated, staring at the message. It wasn't a text of desperation, not exactly. It was one of necessity. Her babysitter, an older woman named Grace who lived a few blocks away, had promised to come watch her 7-year-old son, Leo, while Maria went to a late-night cleaning shift. The woman didn't drive, so Maria always sent her address for an Uber or a friend to pick her up. But tonight, Maria's nerves were raw. The landlord had banged on the door again that morning, demanding rent she didn't have. Leo's asthma medication was almost out, and she'd skipped dinner to stretch the groceries one more night. Her finger pressed send. She set the phone down, exhaled, and stood to check on Leo. He was asleep, small and fragile under the threadbare blanket, his little chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. His inhaler rested beside his pillow. Maria smoothed his hair, whispering a prayer. The rain deepened outside. She turned to grab her coat when the phone buzzed. "Unknown number. On my way. Stay where you are." Her brow furrowed. That wasn't Grace's usual response. Maria typed back, "Maria? Who is this?" No reply came. She assumed Grace must have borrowed someone's phone, maybe her neighbor's, and shrugged it off. She didn't have the luxury to think too much about it. But half an hour later, headlights flashed outside her window. The sleek outline of a black car cut through the rain, its reflection gliding over the puddles on the cracked street. Definitely not Grace's ride. Maria's stomach tightened. The car door opened, and a tall man stepped out, an umbrella snapping open above him. He wore a dark suit that screamed money, even in the dim glow of the streetlight. He hesitated before looking up at her building, then checked his phone. Maria's heart kicked. She peeked through the blinds, uncertain. Then her phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. I'm outside. You said 47 Elm Street." Her fingers trembled. "Maria. Wait, who are you? I think you have the wrong number." 3 dots blinked, then disappeared. A moment later, a knock echoed at her door. She froze. Another knock. Gentle, patient, but firm. Maria tiptoed closer, keeping her voice low. "Who is it?" Ethan. You texted me your location." "Ethan," she echoed. She didn't recognize the name. "Yeah, look, I think there's been a mix-up, but you sounded like you needed help." The voice was calm, deep, and oddly kind. Against her better judgment, she opened the door just a few inches. The man standing there was drenched around the edges of his coat despite the umbrella. He looked out of place in her crumbling building, his presence, his cologne, even the way he held himself. And in his hand, almost absurdly, was a bouquet of roses. Maria blinked. "You brought flowers." He looked down at them, half smiling. "I was supposed to deliver these to a friend's party, but I got your text instead. When I saw the message, I thought maybe you were in trouble." She didn't know what to say. "I wasn't expecting anyone like you. I get that a lot," he said, half amused, half awkward. "Look, if you're okay, I'll just..." A small cough came from the couch. Leo stirred and sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Mom." Maria immediately stepped aside, instinctively shielding him. "It's okay, honey. Go back to sleep." The man's expression softened. He looked at the boy, then at the flickering light bulb above them, the damp floor, the ceiling patchwork. Something in his gaze shifted, like a window opening to a world he hadn't seen before. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said gently. "But if you need help, I can." Maria shook her head quickly. "We're fine. You can go." He hesitated, clearly sensing she was lying. But she looked so fragile and proud at once that he simply nodded. "All right, I'm sorry for disturbing you." He turned and walked back into the rain, the roses still in hand. Maria closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. She'd learned long ago that accepting help often came with strings, and she'd had enough of those to last a lifetime. But she couldn't shake the image of his face, calm, sincere, curious. The next morning, Maria woke to the sound of her phone vibrating again. She squinted at the screen. Unknown number. "Hi, it's Ethan. Sorry again about last night. I hope you and your son are alright." She debated ignoring it, but politeness got the better of her. "Maria. We're fine, thank you. It was just a mix-up." "Ethan. Good, if you ever need anything, let me know. I'm not trying to be weird, I just couldn't stop thinking about how you sounded in that text. She rolled her eyes a little but smiled despite herself. No one usually cared enough to check twice. Maria, we'll be okay. But, thank you. She didn't know that Ethan Cole rarely texted anyone twice. As CEO of Cole Industries, a name synonymous with steel and technology, his life was scheduled to the minute. But something about that message the night before had cut through his monotony. Maybe it was the loneliness in her words, or the small apartment behind that tired smile. He couldn't forget it. Days passed. Maria kept working, cleaning office buildings after hours, stretching every dollar. The electricity flickered constantly, and she'd begun counting days until eviction. One evening, she came home late and found an envelope under her door. Inside was a business card. Ethan Cole, Cole Industries, and below it, a handwritten note. You mentioned you clean offices. My company could use someone like you. We pay weekly. No strings attached. Her first instinct was suspicion. No one gave out chances like that. But curiosity, and desperation, won. The next morning, she took a bus downtown. Cole Industries towered above the city skyline, its glass windows catching sunlight like mirrors. She almost turned back twice before stepping through the revolving doors. A receptionist looked up. Hi, do you have an appointment? Maria held up the card. I was told to come by. Moments later, the elevator doors opened, and Ethan himself stepped out, looking surprised but pleased. You came, she nodded, clutching her bag tightly. You really meant what you said. I always do, he said simply. Come on, I'll show you around. He introduced her to the head of facilities, arranged her schedule, and personally ensured her pay started immediately. The kindness was overwhelming. For the first time in months, Maria felt like the world had stopped pushing back. That night, when she told Leo about her new job, he hugged her tight. Does that mean we can get my inhaler refilled? She smiled through tears. Yes, baby, we can. Weeks became months. Maria worked quietly, efficiently. She was invisible to most people, but not to Ethan. He'd find reasons to talk to her, to ask how Leo was doing, to leave small things, coffee, a box of crayons, a new inhaler, on her desk when she wasn't looking. He never crossed a line. Never made her feel small. But there was something in his eyes when he spoke to her, something soft and searching, as though she reminded him of a world far removed from his own. One evening, as she was mopping the lobby floor, he came down from his office. You shouldn't still be here, he said. Neither should you, she shot back, smiling faintly. Touché, he laughed. Come on, let me buy you dinner. She shook her head. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because I don't belong in your world. He looked at her for a long moment. Maybe that's exactly why I want to know you. Her chest tightened. No one had ever looked at her like that, not since Leo's father left, not since she learned to stop hoping for things she couldn't afford to dream of. But Ethan wasn't easily discouraged. The next day, a vase of roses appeared at her workstation, with a note tucked between the petals. For the woman who reminded me that some wrong numbers are meant to find us. She laughed aloud when she read it, then froze, realizing her coworkers were watching. She blushed, shoved the note in her pocket, and returned to work, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. As weeks passed, Ethan and Maria grew closer. He'd visit her during breaks, help her fix the cleaning equipment she used, or tell stories about his own childhood, a world of private tutors and polished floors. But he never bragged. He listened. Maria told him about Leo, about her dreams of studying nursing, about the constant tightrope between survival and collapse. He listened like every word mattered. One day, she came home to find a small delivery waiting at her door, a new inhaler, a warm meal, and a note that said, no mother should have to worry about medicine. Consider this a friend's promise. Tears filled her eyes. She knew it was him. That night, she texted, you can't keep helping us like this. I don't want to owe you anything. He replied, then don't owe me. Just let me care. Her fingers hovered over the screen for a long time before she whispered to herself, maybe for once, it's okay. It wasn't long before the world noticed. People whispered in the halls of Cole Industries, rumors about the billionaire and the cleaning woman. But Ethan didn't care. One afternoon, he invited Maria and Leo to a company event. When she hesitated, he said simply, you belong wherever you want to be. She arrived in a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back, and Leo in a small suit Ethan had sent for him without telling her. The event was full of people in designer clothes, but when Ethan saw them, he smiled like she was the only one there. "You look incredible," he said. She blushed. "You're biased." "Absolutely," he said, offering his arm. The night passed in a blur of laughter, soft music, and the sound of Leo's giggles as Ethan introduced him to the staff. For the first time, Maria felt like maybe, just maybe, the universe hadn't forgotten her after all. But the world is never kind for long. One morning, Maria arrived at work to find the gossip printed in a tabloid. Billionaire CEO falls for single mom employee. The story twisted their friendship into scandal, painting her as an opportunist. The next day, her coworkers stared. The hour office called her in. Ethan stormed into the room minutes later. "She stays. Anyone who thinks otherwise answers to me." But Maria's heart had already cracked. "This isn't fair to you," she said later. "You'll lose credibility. People will think." "I don't care what people think," he interrupted. "I care about you." Tears filled her eyes. "I can't be your charity, Ethan." "You're not." He stepped closer. "You're my choice." She turned away, afraid of believing him. "I have to think about my son." "Then think about what kind of world you want him to see," he said softly. "One where his mother hides, or one where she's brave enough to be loved?" The words hit her like sunlight through a storm. It took weeks for the noise to fade. Maria stayed home for a while, uncertain what to do. But one evening, she opened her door to find Ethan standing there again, soaked from rain, holding a single rose this time. "I figured it started with the wrong text," he said quietly. "Might as well end with the right one." He held out his phone. On the screen was a new message draft. "I'm at 47 Elm Street. Please come quickly." He smiled. "You sent that once, and it changed my life. So here I am again. Only this time, I'm asking, can I stay?" Maria's throat tightened. She looked at him, then at Leo, who peeked from behind her with sleepy eyes and a grin. "Are you the flower man?" Leo asked. Ethan laughed softly. "Yeah, buddy, I guess I am." Maria's tears spilled as she nodded, whispering, "Then come in, flower man." He stepped inside, setting the rose on the table where the bowl once caught rainwater. This time, the apartment didn't feel small or broken. It felt full, of hope, of warmth, of the strange, beautiful twist of fate that turned a wrong number into the right kind of love. And for the first time in a long while, Maria believed in miracles again. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean and new, as if the city itself had paused to listen. Maria woke to the faint sound of laughter in the kitchen. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she heard Leo's voice, light and happy, not wheezy or tired, and another voice, deeper, warm. Ethan's. She slipped out of bed and peeked through the cracked doorway. Ethan stood by the stove, sleeves rolled up, trying and failing to flip pancakes without making a mess. Leo was perched on a chair beside him, giggling so hard he could barely breathe. Okay, maybe I'm better at mergers than breakfast," Ethan said, laughing at the uneven pile of pancakes. Leo grinned. "Mom always burns them too." "Ah, so it's a family tradition," Ethan said, smiling. Maria stepped forward, shaking her head with a small, disbelieving laugh. "You're both hopeless." Ethan turned, caught mid-smile. "Morning, you." It was such a simple thing. 2 words, gentle and unguarded, but they filled the room like sunlight. She moved closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You didn't have to stay. I wanted to," he said. "Besides, Leo said we should make breakfast for you." Leo nodded proudly. "We're a team now." Maria's heart clenched at that. How naturally the words came to him, how easily Ethan fit into their little world, as though he'd always belonged there. She'd spent so many years believing that the world only took things away. Yet somehow, through a wrong number, life had sent her something back. After breakfast, Ethan offered to walk them to the park. The city glowed in soft autumn light, leaves spinning down around them. Leo raced ahead, chasing pigeons and laughing with a freedom Maria hadn't seen in so long. She watched him, smiling faintly, then turned to Ethan. "Do you ever wonder why things happen the way they do?" she asked. "All the time," he said. "Especially lately. I used to think life was just a series of mistakes I had to survive. But now, looking at him, at you, it's like maybe some of them weren't mistakes at all." He reached for her hand, slow and careful, as if afraid she might pull away. Some wrong turns lead to the right place. She looked at their hands, his large and steady, hers calloused and small, and didn't let go. I'm still scared, she admitted softly. I've been alone for so long that I don't know how to let someone stay. Then we'll take it one day at a time, he said. I'm not here to rescue you, Maria. I just want to stand beside you. Something inside her melted at those words. She'd been offered pity before, promises wrapped in pity, but never partnership. Never this kind of quiet, steady care. When they reached the park, Leo tugged Ethan toward the swings, laughing when Ethan pretended to be terrible at pushing. People passed by, some recognizing the billionaire in his casual clothes, others not caring. But Ethan didn't seem to notice. He was too busy laughing with Leo, too caught up in the simple joy of belonging to something real. Maria sat on the bench watching them, tears threatening again, but this time they weren't from fear or exhaustion. They were the kind that came when your heart finally remembered how to feel safe. Hours passed in easy rhythm. Eventually, Leo grew sleepy, and Ethan carried him home, the boy's small arms wrapped around his neck. It was such an ordinary sight, and yet to Maria it felt like something sacred. When they reached the apartment, Ethan laid Leo gently on the couch, covering him with a blanket. Then he turned to Maria, hesitating for the first time all day. I should probably go, he said. She nodded slowly. You probably should. But neither of them moved. The silence stretched between them, filled with everything they hadn't said. Finally, Maria spoke, her voice quiet but sure. Ethan, you changed everything. I don't even know how to thank you. He shook his head. You don't need to thank me. You think I gave you something, but the truth is, you reminded me what it's like to care about something real. Before you, I just worked. I built things. I collected success, but I didn't live. Maria's eyes shimmered. And now, he smiled faintly. Now I don't want to build anything that doesn't have you in it. She swallowed hard. You're serious, completely. The words hung in the air, raw and impossible and beautiful. For a moment, she let herself believe them. Then she stepped forward, closing the space between them. Then stay, she whispered. Ethan's breath hitched. He looked at her for a long, searching moment, as if trying to be sure. When she didn't look away, he pulled her into his arms. The world fell away, the worries, the doubts, the noise. It was just them, the hum of the city outside, and the steady, fragile rhythm of two hearts finding home. When they finally pulled apart, Maria laughed softly. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I texted the wrong number. He grinned. Best wrong number of my life. Over the next few months, things changed quietly but profoundly. Ethan helped her move into a new apartment, one with sunlight and a balcony full of flowers. He never flaunted his wealth, he just made sure she and Leo had space to breathe, to dream. Maria insisted on keeping her job. I don't want to be taken care of, she said. I just want to stand on my own and know someone's beside me. That's exactly how it should be, Ethan told her. And he meant it. He admired her strength more than anything else. He saw in her a resilience no boardroom or fortune could teach. Leo began to thrive too. His health improved, his laughter grew louder. He started calling Ethan, shyly at first, then with the confidence of a child who finally felt safe. And every evening, when the city lights shimmered outside their window, they'd share dinner, talk about their days, and laugh until the past felt like a distant dream. Sometimes, Maria would catch herself staring at Ethan, still in disbelief that the man who once belonged to a different world had become the heartbeat of hers. He never made her feel less. He never tried to fix her life, he just helped her see that she'd already been fixing it herself all along. One night, after putting Leo to bed, she joined Ethan on the balcony. The air was cool, and the city hummed softly below. Do you ever think about how strange it all is? She asked. He smiled. Every day. If I hadn't sent that message, I still think the universe would have found a way, he said. You and Leo, you're exactly what I didn't know I needed. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. And you're what I stopped believing existed. For a long time, they said nothing. The world stretched before them, quiet and infinite. And somewhere in that stillness, Maria realized she was no longer the woman who'd once sat in a leaking apartment, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She was someone new, someone who'd learned that even the smallest mistake could lead to something extraordinary. When Ethan kissed her, slow and certain, it didn't feel like a fairy tale. It felt real, like coming home after years of wandering. In the distance, church bells rang faintly, marking the hour. Maria smiled, whispering against his chest, "So this is what it feels like when the story doesn't end in loss." He wrapped his arm around her, his voice low and sure. "No, love, this is what it feels like when the story finally begins." And in that moment, under the quiet sky, with the city breathing below and her son safe inside, Maria knew that some miracles don't arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes, they come as a simple message sent to the wrong number, answered by the right heart, at exactly the right time. The rain that once symbolized struggle had stopped for good, and in its place, sunlight poured through every corner of her life. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. And for Maria, for Ethan, and for the little boy who had found his laughter again, that was everything.